each and everyone for coming to this stage, and we are very delighted to welcome you all for this presentation round. So we're welcoming to our events OPS-COGITATE, a case competition organized by OPEP under Karmaanta at IIM Raipur. In collaboration with ISCA, this events bring you together, sharp minds to discuss and innovate. We are delighted to introduce our Professor Mohit Goswami, Associate Professor of Operations, as our event's first judge. At IIT Kharagpur, Sir completed his doctorate in Industrial Engineering and Management. Sir has worked for organizations like Tata, Hitachi Construction Company Limited, and Caterpillar. In addition to having a wealth of industry experience, Sir is currently the chairperson at IIM Raipur. Please accept our warmest greetings, sir.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So I have the honor to introduce our second judge, Ms. Sushmita Nande. Ma'am has worked in industry for more than 24 years. She has completed her doctorate at Savitribai Phule University, and supply chain management and sustainability are among her research topics. Additionally, ma'am is a global mentor of ISCA and a member of several esteemed organizations, including IOEM Society International. Ma'am holds certifications as a yoga instructor and teacher. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Our
I
third,
hope I'm audible.
our third judge is Mr. Sandeep Alawa. Sir has completed his management degree from IIM Mumbai. Sir has more than 12 years of experience in various top MNC companies. Currently, sir is a product capability and strategy manager at Data and Analytics. We welcome you, sir.
Thanks for the invitation.
So everyone, we have a few rules for the presentation. Each team will be getting 8 to 10 minutes for the presentation, followed by a 5 minutes Q&A session. The team will have to strictly adhere to the time, failing which will there will be a negative marking. So all of you, the team participants can leave now, except the first team, the team Unstoppable.
Samisha, these guys are aware of the order in which they'll be presenting, or
Yes,
should we just declare the order also?
So we have already given the order to them. We have passed the information. We'll be calling.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, all right.
So, Team Unstoppables, are your team members and your teammates ready for the presentations?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are ready.
Okay, so your
Yes,
time
we are
starts
ready.
now. It's 2:35. You have to complete the presentation by max 2:45. All the best.
Thank
you.
Just a second.
Guys who are not presenting, can you please leave the meeting so that others won't get disturbed?
So can I go ahead?
Can you start the timer from now onwards?
Okay, sure. So it's 2:36.
Yes, Malika.
You can
I
continue.
hope you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Oh, so good afternoon, panelists. We are the Unstoppables from DMS IT Delhi. Myself is Mallikarjuna Honkaravena, and my teammates are Shrai Shivam and Garima Yadav. Coming to the case, so these are some case facts which has been given. So we'll talk about the company brief. So Tidal Wave is a company that manufactures the braking systems and then supplies to MEs. And then the company has also announced its sustainability and reduction in emission of carbon. in the supply chain. And then it has been facing some few challenges. The first challenge is the reliability of the data, which is provided by the suppliers, and then understanding of scope 3 reporting. And then third one is the management is not fully aware of GHG gases emissions and its scopes basically. And then the integration part with suppliers and the consumers, customers as well. So the expected outcomes through this case is we need to map the challenges being faced in assessing and reporting on different scopes and detail an action plan on the same. And then comprehensive assessments of scope, all the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And we need to develop a outcome map for the same. So the stakeholders involved are the company and then suppliers and the customers and government regulatory authorities and then industries and NGOs associated with the company. So to go with the case, we have assumed a few assumptions here. We assume the company mainly focuses on both commercial vehicles and rail applications. And then it has a geographical presence of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra. And then we assume that the employees use different type of mode of transportations. And then the company has a fleet size which includes vehicles running on both gasoline and then diesel. And then company engages in business travels, including in short haul, medium haul, and the long haul flights. We also consider the case of COVID-19 and the work from home scenario as well. Yeah, now my friend will take care of this.
Yeah, talking about challenges of the tidal wave, the first challenge which we identify is like supplier reluctance to disclose the data with us. So suppliers hesitate to disclose comprehensive emission data. For that, we are incentivizing the suppliers through financial or non-financial measures. For non-financial measures, like we can go for long-term partnership, recognition and certifications, awards, awarding them by giving awards. So the second challenge is data fragmentation in supply chain. This is one of the major challenges in supply chain. For that, we are proposing a website where the suppliers and customers both can share data at a common platform, and that platform will be implementing a technology of blockchain so that nobody can play with data and no alteration can be made. For reliability of data, we are proposing a third-party audit. The tidal wave will hire one third-party agency which can audit the both suppliers and customers for the emission data they are giving. For a scope 3 reporting hesitancy, we are proposing that tidal wave can make it mandatory for its suppliers and customers to mandatorily give the data share the data with them. Also, government can play a pivotal role with it, and tidal wave can look forward for collaborations with government in policy making. For inconsistent data quality, we are proposing a comprehensive checklist for the data collection, which ensure the consistency of data and comparable data quality across diverse suppliers. For strategic alignment efficiency, we are proposing to conduct executive training programs to enhance the understanding of scope 3 emissions and align strategic goals with both our suppliers and customers. For regularity uncertainties, rather than having a specific team for it, we are proposing hiring a consultant, which we can always follow up on in case of any government changes, and they can suggest us with change in operations of our company. Regarding risk of incomplete data disclosure, again we have proposed a comprehensive checklist for it. For communication gaps with stakeholders, we will conduct offline meetings, use digital platforms like websites, webinars, social media, when communication and understanding between tidal wave and its stakeholders. Regarding educational gaps, which I see is the most important challenge for tidal wave, because it is given in case that even the management of tidal wave is not fully aware of it. That's why educational gap plays a crucial role. And we propose collaboration with HEPA, which is a Higher Education Procurement Association, for online courses, and their HESCT tool, which is Higher Education Supply Chain Emissions tool, which helps for educational content, and also it teaches how to actually calculate the CO2 emissions. Next slide. Okay, so we have done the analysis, And we have seen that is under scope 1 analysis, 46% is coming from for the oil consumption. 20, around 30% is coming from the coal combustion. For scope 2 emissions, district heating is contributing 48%, district electricity is contributing 23%, and district steam is contributing 21%. For scope 3 emissions, which contributes almost 80% of the total emissions, 80 to 85% of the total emissions, inside it, the use of sold products is 73%, purchased goods and services is contributing 12%, and employee committing contributes 15%. We have also done the cost analysis for the same, what we are proposing, in which 30% of the cost goes for alignment efficiency, for awareness, teaching courses. There we will use 30% of our funds. And for website designing, 15%, regularity uncertainties, 15%, and again for educational gaps, 10%. Yeah. Next slide.
So now we will look into the approach on what basis we have calculated this assessment model. So for measuring all the three emissions, so for scope 1, we have firstly identified all the emission sources such as natural gas, oil and coal, vehicle fuel for tidal wave company. And for scope 2, such as the similar calculation method for scope 2, and in which we have identified the emission sources such as heating, cooling and the energy sources. For the both scope 1 and scope 2, we have utilized the emissions factors such as per the global standards for the calculations. And to highlight here on the scope 2, we have also explored the possibility of renewable energy sources and collaborating with the suppliers to give us the accurate data reporting through continuous engagement program, which we are going to talk about into the next slide. And also we will be regularly being updated with the government and global associations for guideline checking on the latest emissions factors. For scope 3, we have identified the major critical contributor in the emissions, which you can see here. We have categorized into 6 major subcategories, and we also use the same method. Like first, we identified the emissions sources, and then we taken the emissions factors as per the global association define these factors, and then using all these things, we have calculated that model. Then we are also going to use this model for preparing a comprehensive framework for reporting all the scope data centrally, which we will got in blockchain. And then we will also develop a common platform such as website or app for providing the visibility into the emissions data. Moving to next slide. For bringing data reliability and control in value chain, we have proposed the blockchain integration, and then IoT integrated emissions for measuring the scope 1 and 2 emissions. We are going to propose IoT integrated emission sensors. Then for robust system for scope 3 data sharing, we are going to create a platform where all stakeholders, suppliers and customers can collectively work towards our shared emission goal that we are targeting to achieve in 1 year. And then we will report these data using the blockchain. And this platform we are going to create a user friendly, and for that we will hire a vendor, and we will also offer recognition, certification and financial incentives for actively contributing in emission data reporting to our suppliers and customers. Then we will talk about the implementation plan. Over to Mallikarjun.
So implementation, we have given implementation plan for 1 year. So we have divided 1 year into 4 quarters. In 1 to 3 months, we are planning to understand like the scope between the organizations to the employees, and then we are also planning to make them understand the importance of scope.
Your voice is not clear. Is it just me?
The vendors protocol checklist, what data needs to be taken from the survey.
Mallikarjun, can you just go with it again? Because your voice was breaking. Yeah. Go with
Am I audible now?
Go with the phone
Yes,
again. Yeah.
yes.
I'm so sorry about that. So I hope I'm audible clearly now, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So coming to the implementation plan for 1 year, we have divided 1 year into 4 quarters basically. So in the first 3 months, we are trying to make the understand basically what is GHG gases and then what are all the scopes involved in it. And then the diversification, how do we do the diversification within the organization and to the stakeholders as well. In the second quarter, from 4 to 6 months, we would like to prepare a standard protocol checklist with which data has to be taken from the vendors, prepare the scope 3 reports, and then we'll try to prepare a framework for emission reporting, and we'll try to integrate IoT devices. So we need to measure the emissions for scope 1 and scope 2. In the third quarter, we will develop a website, a common website, which is for both to the customers, vendors, and then to the internal people of the organization. And then we'll start
Mallikarjun, your voice is breaking again. I will continue.
Your voice is breaking and your time's up. So please conclude as soon as possible.
And then we will also integrate with. Am I audible now? Is it clear or still it's breaking?
Yeah. Please conclude in another 1 minute.
Okay, Mallikarjun, Shreya ma'am, you
Sure,
can
sure.
conclude in 1 minute.
Yeah, so yeah, we have done the challenges part. We have provided solutions for it, and we have come up with a whole comprehensive checklist and the whole calculation part of it in our Excel. And here at the last slide, uh, we have given the whole planning of how tidal wave should go about the planning part of it. In a year, it can be achievable, and we come up with the costing that 2.3 lakh dollars is needed to come up with in this whole scenario, whatever solutions we have given. Yeah, thanks. Last slide.
Last slide.
Yeah. That's it from our side, sir.
All right.
Yeah.
Sushmita ma'am, maybe you would like to go ahead with your question.
Yes, first of all, very good presentation. You've covered a lot of aspects that are really necessary for the reporting. And one or two questions I have from my side is the idea of giving a braking company is because of the energy losses that the braking systems can make while manufacturing. So have you considered the energy loss aspect in your calculations? And if that is so, how have you considered in your calculation, like because it's a braking system? And also, have you considered the boundaries that are required for calculation of the scope 3 assessment?
Can you elaborate on the boundaries, like by boundaries, what?
Yeah, the boundary means basically for if a company is manufacturing, there's certain things maybe within its boundary, but that is an external thing for another company. So there has to be some boundary fixation during the calculation of these scope 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, in assumptions we have written it. Mallikarjun, you can open the Excel if you Excel file and
Yeah,
go
okay,
with scope 3.
assumptions. Okay.
Go with the scope 3. Scope 3. Yeah. So yes,
Okay.
there you can see, like for every category we have, like for flight
Mm,
we
okay.
have taken, yeah, and then for product group rail braking, and sorry ma'am, for the first point regarding energy loss, that we have
Mhm.
missed purely.
Okay,
That-
no issues. The
Other-
company was specifically given as braking company for certain reasons, but that's okay. That certain things are okay. Okay, fine.
Otherwise, we have given the detailed breakup of
Yes,
how.
yes, that's quite elaborate and very good. Yes, so my questions are done. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. Good presentation. fairly comprehensive, fairly elaborate plan as far as your entire detailing is concerned. I believe, as far as the case is concerned, there was a significant emphasis on the energy part, the emissions part. Do you think if we would have somehow augmented the scope of the study in that, let us say, we consider product life cycle emissions emanating not just from the company operations, but post purchase things like materials. Since we are talking about braking company, there are lots of materials that gets used typically, which are difficult to biodegrade and things like that. Would that kind of inclusion also help your study?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, because product life cycle, if you are given product life cycle, then we can build a whole model on it, like how many years a product will survive, and then because carbon emission is related with that product, that's why.
Okay. Second question is, you yourself are saying that, historically the reporting has been on a weaker side from the suppliers, right?
Yes.
Also, there can be issues with the data and whatnot. More often than not, there are troubles with the data accuracy, incompleteness of data, etc. So in that case, when you're proposing some kind of a AI-based algorithm to analyze historical emissions data and predict future trends, etc., do you think it might work well? Because you would be already grappling with issues related to incompleteness, issues related to unavailability, or possibly non-reliability of data as well.
Sir, for non-reliability and verifying the data, we have proposed third-party audit first thing. So the third-party audit will verify whether the data provided by suppliers and customers are true or not. After their audit only, the audited data will only reach the platform. That is first thing. And another thing is the completeness of the data. What you were saying, we have the customers and suppliers have to fill one form which we call our standard protocol, which will have comprehensive checklist regarding all the scopes, scope 1, 2, and 3. And if suppose a supplier is not having, there are 15 categories in scope 3, right? So some suppliers are only having emissions in 6, and for others, for other 9 categories, they will fill simply 0.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And to add on that, even government we also need to request government, because GHG gas emission is so dangerous to the earth, right? So it's not in India, it's not mandatory to show those reports, but we can suggest government to show that reports, which in turn helps. Like there'll be fear in the companies, like if they see that we are emitting so much of carbon, then there might be our shares might be go down, something like that. So that fear makes them to work with less emissions kind of things.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, so Sandeep, this side.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have a question on the cost aspects. So do you know, like, did you do a research on what is the typical margin of an automotive industry? Give me a guess number.
Maybe 15%.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Serious?
Yeah.
Okay. It's somewhere from 2 to 8%. Okay, Indian automotive and in general automotive. In this case study, we're talking about a braking supplier who is supplying to OEM, that is a tier 1 supplier. I have spent quite some time in tier 1 suppliers. So from a cost aspects, right? Working between 2 to 6% of margin. What is the value? So this is for the whole value chain, right? There will be tier 1 supplier, there will be tier 2 suppliers, and tier 2 will supply to tier 1 will supply to OEM, right? So from the cost aspect, right, what is the actual value that you'll show to a tier 2 supplier, means your supplier, to to bring them on board with this? You got my question?
Uh,
So,
Malika.
so to bring them on board in the sense to show the emission data, or how is it, sir?
Yeah, to bring them on board with this idea that let's together reduce the emission, right?
Mhm.
Okay. If we are taking it in tier one Indian supplier, so what is the value you'll be showing? What will be the kind of a business case you'll be telling to your supplier to convince them? Because everything you mentioned, 3.3 lakh US dollar of a cost, right? That would be a revenue
Yeah,
for some of the top
around
organization.
2
And
lakhs.
yeah, whatever, there will be a cost on standard certification. You mentioned something regarding third party audit, that is additional cost, because there needs, it's not just audit, it has a whole framework. If you talk about OSHAs, if you talk about 16949, there's a whole framework where you need to have management representative, where you have champions that will help in the certification or whatever. So every of the steps or suggestion incurs a cost, which may vary according to the size and what you're trying to achieve. So what will be your and it's not directly adding it to your profit, right? It's not adding to your bottom line. So what is the value case or a business case that you'll ask take to your tier two suppliers to bring them on board with the idea?
Yeah, I think eventually government compelling everyone to for net zero, like for India, it's 2070. So every businesses are compelled to like reduce their carbon emissions. That is the first use case I think that tidal wave can pitch to their suppliers, because now it is a necessity. And if you don't do that, nobody is going to give you orders even, because so many companies are in the race and everybody is behind net zero. So that is, I think, one thing which tidal wave can convince their tier two.
Also, sir, we have like in our implementation plan, we are going for the pilot testing model. So first, in tier two suppliers, we will be conducting the webinars and courses for their awareness. For first 3 months, we will be doing that, where we can show them that how this is implementing the climate and there we can understand, like we can build that understanding, and then in 3 months we will be doing that. Then after that we are moving for the other programs in implementation plan. So that that
So,
will be our strategy.
And sir, regarding sharing of expenses, also we can come up with a strategy that how the expenses should be. Uh, I think will be divided between tidal wave and the company which we are between the suppliers. So
to add on that, there is very important crucial part, investments to the company. So now that the investors are very looking at the sustainable companies, so the main part nowadays, the buzzing word is the sustainability and zero carbon emission. If we are so the reports which we are preparing, we will be showing it to the public. So which makes the brand equity increase the companies. So which in turn attract the investors to invest in the company. So this is the most advantageous thing when we ask them, like when we ask the data, and then we show them we are the persons like who are emitting very less emissions, and we are supporting the earth. So that is one important thing, sir. Investment, we can attract investments to the companies basically.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
So Team Unstoppables, a very good and insightful presentation. You can leave the meeting, and all the best for your results. The results will be announced on Unstop in 2 to 3 days.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
yeah,
Thank you,
thank you for the opportunity, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Second team on the board. So second team is team strategizers. So as we can see that all of your fellow mates are ready with the presentation, you can start your presentation. And one thing is compulsory that you have to adhere to the timelines as given. So 10 minutes is max. You can't extend it by 10 minutes because it would raise a penalty for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So are you good to go? Hello. Hello, may I start?
Yes, you can start your presentation. Your time starts now.
Okay. Tidal Wave, as the name suggests, the company is poised to create a significant and positive wave of transformation in the automotive brakes industry by shifting its gears, smashing carbon, and steering towards the goal of net zero. Greetings of the day panel. With a more sustainable future outlook coming forward, we, the first year undergrads of Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies, present this exuberating journey of tidal wave through the lenses of its project Sustainify. So as we move on to our executive summary, our team has presented an SCQ analysis where the situation defines the key priority of the company to establish a comprehensive baseline for current emissions across all the supply chain scopes. And as the project Sustainify kicks off, it aims at assessing the emissions from tidal waves operations, suppliers, and customers. Next, the project encounters complications on the two fronts that are limited managerial awareness and complex regulatory landscape. So this raises a question as to how to decarbonize by engaging stakeholders for crucial data to enable the integration of a low emission strategy under Project Sustainify. So all these concerns are answered by a three-way stakeholder-centric approach, as you can see, which is tailored engagement, product innovation, and green expansion, about which we would be discussing in our further slides as well. So the strategic expansion plan from immediate measures to the long-term strategies, which are namely the Know Your Carbon strategy, mapping and engaging suppliers, streamlining data, partnering to reduce, and at last is the transparency and improvement, which tells us how to approach forward. So scope 3 reporting for other companies as taken from the reports of big fours shows the impact figures of 20% increase in revenue and a hike in revenue projections as well. Also, 2022 report by Accenture found that 93% of the world's largest companies will miss their net zero goals if they don't at least double the pace of the carbon emissions reduction by 2030. So thus it requires for an immediate implementation for tidal wave as well. Moving forward, yeah, so to the trends and complexities, which we found out that it states that USA and Canada, which are tidal waves' current operating locations, shows that 35% of new cars will have regenerating braking capabilities, and 20% of brake manufacturers will initiate a closed loop recycling programs. So for the top 10 companies with the most decarbonized supply chain as marked as we have marked it with the dark green, it shows a target of 19% reduction in greenhouse gases in Costa Rica, and 5% of new vehicles in Japan are expected to be hydrogen's fuel cell powered. So yeah, so the potential locations to expand, as we have shown in the yellow color, are India, China, and Italy, showing high growth in the automotive parts market and EV production capacity, which is driving demands for more sustainable materials and use of more sustainable practices as well. So after assessing the scopes, there were some pitfalls we focused on. So for direct emissions, manufacturing facilities are making the most of it, added on by the vehicle fleet emissions as well. The second scope shows the energy intensive nature of this industry and yeah, increased carbon footprints due to the intensity of purchased electricity. So the third scope of other indirect emissions shows complications due to globally dispersed supply chain, OEMs collaboration, and the disposal and recycling of the products at the end of their life cycle. Moving forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I will tell you why our action plan to achieve sustainability in the supply chain for tidal wave will be the most efficient and effective plan being proposed. Basically, it involves four elements stretched out over 4 years. First one is map and engage suppliers. What it includes, basically, we'll be supporting high impact suppliers with data collection collected over time periods. And then we'll be moving forward as to how we can implement these measures into our company. The second measure that would be implemented in the second year is streamlined data, basically piloting test data collection tools and providing it to our suppliers and consumers so that we can get gainful insights. The third one would be partner to reduce, basically modeling different decarbonization pathways. Why do we need different pathways? The basic answer to that is we need different strategies to fully achieve decarbonization in the supply chain, because a single measure won't yield us the same results that different measures would. The last one is transparency and improvement. That includes standardized reporting for internal and external stakeholders. These internal and external stakeholders include consumers, suppliers, and other governmental elements as well. Moving forward to the scopes plan that we have introduced, we would be talking about scope 3 reporting. That is the most important one. Basically, those are other indirect emissions that a company or a company's assets do not include, but rather it affects the company indirectly. What we have proposed here is basically identifying key suppliers and customers contributing to emissions. Again, we have discussed this, that suppliers and consumers are a major part of our whole strategy. Next would be assessing suppliers and customer emission profiles. So basically taking on customers and suppliers that have proper profiles, which have measures that implement decarbonization in their working. So those customers and suppliers will only be taken on. Next is the pestle analysis that has been done. So basically in political factors, we have introduced climatic policies and government support. In economic factors, we have included market volatility and investor pressure. In social factors, it's labor rights and standards with community engagement, because community engagement is one of the main factors of our whole plan. Next would be the technological factors, which is advancement in the green techs that have happened in the past decade, and data acquisition and management. The next would include climate change impacts and regulatory pressure. And last is legal, which is product liability and greenwashing regulations. Moving forward, we'll be giving a scope assessment model, including upstream activities, downstream activities, and reporting company measures that can be taken by tidal wave. So firstly would be ethical sourcing practices that would be included in upstream activities. Next would be sustainable supply chain mapping and transparency and data sharing, supply chain certification and traceability. Downstream activities would include lightweighting and aerodynamic optimization with advanced driver assistance systems integrated with the whole supply chain. Next would be end of life option promotions and information. Eco driving education and awareness campaigns would also go a long way in implementing all this. Some of the measures that can be taken by the reporting company, that is tidal wave, are responsible sourcing, vehicle design and efficiency, supplier collaborations. Now, how do we propose this? Basically implementing them in the different company elements that exist inside the company, that is company facilities, company vehicles, purchased energy, etc. Moving forward, we'll be discussing the outcome map by my teammate.
So let's start our journey by mapping out the outcomes we aim to achieve. Our journey begins with a focus on brand and reputation, propelling us as a sustainability beacon in this automotive industry. So next up is financial gains. As the financial gains revs up, accessing green financing through strategic approaches. Next is regulatory compliance and risk mitigation. These act as shield, ensuring resilience. Also, our commitment extends to collaboration with suppliers, which fosters shared sustainability goals. Societal and environmental contributions are paramount, steering us towards faster climate and action, and fostering employee pride through active engagement in sustainability initiatives. This concise expedition defines our commitment to a sustainable future. Going on to the growth drivers that propel us forward, each of them are playing a crucial role in our journey. Let's break down these driving forces. First, we have the successful Scope 3 reporting and supply chain decarbonization. It's the fuel that propels us forward, marked by a very high impact. Next up is innovation in sustainable braking technology, marked by high impact. It's the turbocharger boosting our progress. Next up is strategic expansion into emerging markets. It is the navigator guiding us through growth opportunities with a decent impact. Next is fostering strong customer relationships and brand loyalty. This is considered as the driver's seat of a journey marked by high impact. Effective digital marketing and branding strategies form a decent impact, enhancing our presence in this competitive landscape. Last but not least, developing aftermarket solution is contributing with a decent impact, catering to diverse needs in the automotive aftermarket. Thank you for joining this green journey of Tidal Waves project Sustainify. That's all from our side. We are up for the questions now.
Yes, should I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, again, a very good presentation. You have covered a lot of aspects and mainly within time and within the focus. My question is that is there any method that you have mentioned for impact assessment?
Yeah, so for impact assessment, the basic measures that we have implemented would include transparency and improvement. That would be implemented in the fourth step. Streamline data, that is also being done. So the data that is being collected is for the assessment of scope 3 reporting that is being done by the company. It would include the different sections. First would be consumers, second would be suppliers, and so on to the different elements that would be important in the ranking.
Okay. Yes, I have only this many questions. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, ma'am.
Yeah, so there are lots of academic framework which typically captures the implementation of sustainability practices as well as compliances and whatnot. I'm just curious, why did you guys choose pestle analysis as some kind of focus on this specific dimension? Is there a specific reasoning for choosing pestle analysis?
Yeah, so the specific reasoning for choosing pestle analysis is firstly, it provides a 360-degree view as mentioned by us before. The second thing is that scope 3 reporting and sustainable development in the supply chain has actually a lot of legal factors and regulatory laws and regulations specific to different countries and regions across the globe. So to capture that and at the same time assess the environmental and educational factors for it, we chose pestle analysis to include in our whole deck.
Okay, so could you go please to that slide where you had shown 10% to Italy, 50% to, yeah, I think one of the previous slides. I think second or third one probably. Yeah. So what is this percentage? So for example, what does this 10% indicate?
Yeah, so 10% is basically the weight reduction in braking components achieved through lightweight materials that have been done in different countries. Why we have tried to do that is because Tidal Wave is a braking parts company that makes braking parts. So what we have tried to show here is that companies which have achieved some amount of sustainable development in their supply chains have made these advantages over time, and why decarbonization in supply chain won't reduce costs only, but at the same time affect certain other elements as well.
So how is the weight reduction contributing towards the achievement of those indicators?
Yeah, so
Yes.
basically how weight reduction is helping the company in the long run is we have seen that certain sizes and certain weights of cars are taxed more in certain countries as compared to cars which are taxed less. So if we are reducing the weight, the company has the option to save costs and at the same time integrate other technological elements also, since obviously it's the onset of digital era. So for example, in the past decade, we have seen the introduction of a tablet that is being installed in the digital framework of the car. So if we are able to reduce the weight of the car, we can introduce other elements also.
Okay.
Adding to that,
Yeah, so just a small follow-up on that. Can material substitution as a strategy also work here? Meaning, particularly in the brake systems, brake pads and whatnot, there are many material which are quite dense material, and typically we are talking about the 3D printing and stuff like that. So can some substitution also work? I
Yes,
know
for
we might be digressing a bit, but from an engineering perspective, can that also work?
yes, so if we look
yes,
onto the traditional approach, there were metallic components used as for the braking components. So instead of that, we can use the more lightweight ones, which are the ceramic, which are made up of ceramic, which are made up of silica. So that's how it would obviously reduce the carbon emissions, because if you know that creating metal would create a lot of carbon emission, but creating components with silica and with other materials, it would create it would reduce the carbon footprints, and that's how it would add up to our net zero emission strategy.
Adding to that, lightweight materials used in brake components, like also we can use aluminum, magnesium, and carbon fibers. So they are significantly lighter than steel, so which can lead a substantial reduction in vehicle weight also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the question.
Right, Sandeep this side. So I want to appreciate the roadmap slide you have. I think one earlier one, right? The multi-year roadmap that you created. If someone needs to go about it, this would be kind of the way. You can just go big bang. Okay. And I do not have a question related to your slides, but I have a question coming from the last question sir has asked. So do you know which OEM is using a strategy to use lightweight component, Indian OEM car manufacturer, to increase their fuel efficiency?
So I'm not sure about it, but if I would have to guess, it would be Tata because of the hybrid cars that they have, recently started producing.
No, it's not Tata for sure.
But
And it has compromised the vehicle safety as well.
No, but sir, I do know about like a global company that has been doing it. So like I would have wanted to add it on to the previous question. Basically, what Tesla has done is that they have introduced a container truck which has regenerative power braking system instead of the technical brake pads. And the brake pads tire off over time. So if we are using regenerative braking system in EV vehicles, we are able to remove the brake pads and at the same time reduce the weight and do material substitution also.
So and to strategies, Sandeep sir actually indicated the answer in his previous question itself. It ended up compromising something to the safety aspect also. So the answer is embedded there only. All right.
No worries. Just search it. It would be interesting to read about it. Okay. Thanks. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, team strategizers, for your presentation. You can leave the meeting and all the best for your results. Results will be announced in a day or two.
Sure. Thank you so much for this kind opportunity.
Hello, hi. Am I audible and visible?
Yep.
Yes, you are audible. And in your fellow mates?
Actually, my teammate had some urgencies at home, so he'll not be able to join today.
Okay, so you will only be presenting the presentation?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, no issues. So your time starts from 3:20. You have 10 minutes for the presentation. Thank you.
So a cheerful afternoon to one presenter today. I, Priyank Pobley, invite you to embark on a transformative journey as we explore a compelling case study on tidal waves, on decarbonizing the supply chain. Together, let's uncover how innovative strategies are not only reducing carbon footprints but also shaping a brighter tomorrow. Also, welcome to the forefront of change for a greener tomorrow. Now, before jumping to the actual challenges and solution, let us understand how stakeholder engagement works. Also, how a right action plan can be developed. Talking about ESG and sustainability, the role in supplier engagement should be to initialize the driver for setting an SBT. Also, technical support for training on GHG emission and SBTs. Also, calculating and tracing tracking scope 3 emissions are also important. Also, the priority should be set here that how driving the company's sustainable performance and implement association initiatives. Also, ensuring climate leadership and credibility. Now, frame the initiative for ESG and sustainability, which is a leading practice in sustainability and GHG management. Also, it is an opportunity to integrate a sustainable practice into the business. talking about the sources and procurement, the role in supplier engagement should be to primary contact suppliers managing contracts, also integrate supplier expectation and requirement into existing processes. Also, along with this, supporting supplier training and accountability. The priorities set here should be streamlining procurement processes, ensuring team understand and support and supplier expectation and are supported in the process. Also, getting technical support from the sustainability teams are also an important thing to understand. And framing the initiative should be to should have the opportunity to enhance supplier quality relationship and collaborations. Now, talking about the right action plan, how to develop. The first of all should be allowed to align to organization commitments. It should include the materiality assessment, setting goals and target, commitment to establish frameworks. Another important thing is to understand hotspot and prioritize activities. It should include portfolio energy and carbon analysis, identifying opportunity and risk, uh, and to see how can the impact to minimized. Also, talking about the long-term plan, how to plot the long-term plan, it should identify levers to success, forecast emissions, and align to opportunities and targets. Also, executing the strategies is the most important thing here. It should have a strong implementing strategies. Also, it should access financial impact and define uh, funding mechanisms. Now, four important things that should be seen in the collaboration thing is first of all, this sustainability vision and sustainability governance, which I talked before. Vision should include the strategies, goals, opportunities. Also, the governance should have ESG metrics and key performance indicators. Also, governance policy is important thing that should be focused on. Talking about the engagement in sustainability, it should have partnership with different stakeholders. Communication and awareness is one important thing that should be focused on. Also, iterative transformation roadmap is one thing that tidal wave should focus on. It should have uh, circular economy concepts of utilizing and uh, efficient operations and a better business model. Now, these are some broad decarbonization opportunities. And talking about the highest level of feasibility, which has the clean vehicle technologies, de-speeding the supply chain, optimizing network, packaging design, efficient energy buildings. So these are some of the broad level opportunities that tidal wave can focus on. Now, challenges. Coming to the main challenges that in the supply chain. First of all, is the strategic awareness gap. What we believe, tidal wave management lacks a strategic grasp of scope assessment, and which hinders decisive action and commitment. Data integrity is also an important thing that should be focused on. Industry-wide data inconsistencies impede precise measurement and robust reporting. Now, coming to the reporting thing again, reporting dilemma is one thing. Reporting confusion dilemma is one thing that tidal wave should focus on. Discretionary reporting creates a transparency void, hampering efforts for a low emission supply chain. Regulatory uh, regulatory framework should be focused on ongoing regulatory changes demand proactive alignment of the things going on in the supply chain. Now, creating large scale communication of comprehensive aviation data retail process possess a logistical challenge. Data homogenization is also a challenge that should be focused on. Harmonizing diverse data sets from requires uniformity and formats and metrics. Strategic coherence imperative, which means aligning scopes, assessment with tidal waste, decarbonization strategies, crucial for impactful outcomes. Now, these are some of the major challenges, top five challenges that should be focused on for a decarbonized supply chain. First of all, is lack of carbon accounting for addiction and over reliance on secondary data for scope 3 emissions. Now, what can be done here is to set up baseline for scope 3 emissions and quantify value at stake. Another challenge is significant uncertainty or cost and technical feasibility of carbon reduction levers. And the pathway would be here to develop a carbon abatement cost curve to plan this pathway and set targets. Now, two most important challenges are to require industry-wide collaboration to address many sources of emissions. Also, which needs sustained engagement by internal and external stakeholders through a multi-layer change program. And implementation tracking can be done through mobilized channels and collaboration with various sources. Now, coming to the solution part and what outcomes can it create? First of all is operational efficiency, optimizing the operations for reduced carbon efficiency, fuel efficiency, and lower cost. Energy sustainability is one thing that can be focused on, which means attaining sustainability, energy use, increase use of renewables, and overall enhance efficiency. Supply chain reliance, as I talked before, boost reliance by identifying risk and engaging suppliers strategically. And collaborations, as I talked before, there should be industry-wise collaborations with suppliers and other stakeholders. Improvement in any business should be done. Cultivate a culture of sustainability improvement, measure efficiency gain, and successful innovations. Alignment, aligning the sustainability with strategic goals, measuring integration, and strategic impact on reliance. Also, regulatory compliance is one thing that is the most important thing here to understand. Ensuring compliance with regulations, measuring updates, legal assessment, and overall compliance scorecards. Now, a few things that can be focused on by tidal waves are to supplier compliance, monitoring adherence to decarbonization standards. There should be standards made so that for every process in the supply chain. Implications are there, supply chain complexities, transition to the renewable energy, also regulatory uncertainty. Now, this chart shows how the strategies are there and how can they involve in the supply chain. So if we talk about the awareness, informing strategies, they are internal management capabilities, supplier engagement, supplier disclosure and reporting, supply chain mapping, product level data. Now, what will involve are development of internal working practice and skills, initial engagement to raise issues, asking suppliers to disclose and report emissions, mapping of emissions instances and point of influence, also understanding the per product GHG data. Now, in the reduction strategies, there comes supplier network optimization, logistic optimization, contractualized reduction, supplier selection criteria, supply chain collaborations. Also, this second chart shows how can a reward work in decarbonizing the supply chain. Yeah, so it includes building capability, rewarding progress, enforcing performance, and leveraging procurement. Now, another important thing, how the decarbonizing can be worked here. First of all is to agile operational insight optimization, leverage artificial intelligence for dynamic tracking of carbon intensity. One thing here is that their data is incomplete. There are no frameworks made, no standardization. So AI is one thing that can be focused on, but unless there is no proper data setup. Also, smart energy efficiency integration should be done, strategic emission impact assessment, supplier data optimization, regulatory compliances, and lean internal alignment. Seamlessly integrate sustainability, align with target within existing strategic frameworks. So, yeah. Now, plan of action to decarbonize the supply chain. Important thing to cover here is sub-governance, data, incentivization, innovation, collaboration. So first of all, supply chain baseline and mapping exercise should be done to enhance understanding of supply chain tiers and scope 3 emission hotspots. Also, scope 3 decarbonization targets and process should be set, or it should be reviewed if already set. Segmenting the supplier based on chosen characteristics. Example include proportion supplier spend, carbon footprint, supplier ambition, supplier maturity, geography, sector, supply chain tier. Prioritizing suppliers based on anticipated decarbonization impact. Consideration include total carbon emissions, supplier ambition, or existing capabilities. Also, incentivization level should be matched appropriately to select supplier segments. Also, the most important thing is to develop a rollout plan for implementing supplier decarbonization incentives. Consider overlap with other 4 enablers, for example, collaborating with industry peers to address shared suppliers or developing data collection system to track emission reduction progress. Also, now coming to the business part, embedding this process into the business. Now, talking about the scope of the assessment, how can the assessment model be created and how can our solution be integrated? First of all, is digital onboarding. There should be a streamline a user-friendly platform suppliers, emphasizing key emission parameters. Also, data quality standards define standardized data formats for emission data submission, focus on critical matrices. Now, for the AI part, this is the one of the most important that should be focused on. If the data is not correct, it is not in the proper format, AI would not do anything if the data is not correct or in the proper format. Incentivized structure design performance incentive tied to key metrics like emission reduction and sustainable sourcing. Automation for validation, utilize automation tools for error minimized data validation, emphasizing emission intensity per unit of production. Risk mitigation is also important thing that should be focused on the assessment model. Develop contingency plans for disruptions, prioritizing critical parameters affecting supply chain resilience. Also, confidentiality is one thing that should be focused on. Assure suppliers of confidentiality, especially for proprietary and sensitive emission data information. Training session can be conducted how on specific emission include parameters including scope 3 emissions. Communication, awareness, engagement is one thing that should focus on. Establish streamlined challenge, emphasizing timelines, clarity, and responsiveness. Also, compliance monitoring can be focused on for adherence to reduction commitments. Yeah. So this is brought to you by Priyank Popli from DTU, Delhi College of Engineering. Thank you.
Okay, good presentation. I have two questions for you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So first of all, are you going to measure all the 15 criteria in scope 3, and if yes, how? And second question is, do you think energy recovery is possible for this braking company in their internal process change? Is it possible to decarbonize by doing something inside their systems?
So talking about it can be done phase wise. We'll all cover all the 15 parameters, but phase wise. In the earlier stages, we can see how in the internal system can be changed and then outside externally. But we'll plan to cover all the 15 parameters. And yes, internal decarbonization can be done. They can set up parameters to understand how they are utilizing energy. How can energy utilization be standardized? How can they reduce the energy consumption or change their way internally?
Okay, that is energy consumption tracking is a part, should be a part, but I think you haven't answered my second question. I meant energy recovery because of energy loss for the braking system. Will there be some innovation with respect to it? Or, I mean, do you think that this can help in the decarbonization at their end, and then comes the question of scope 3 again?
Yes, in the automotive industry overall and in the braking system market, innovation is one thing that can be focused on. Through innovation, there can be a new model set up, there can be new processes made so that the energy retrieval can be done.
Okay. Yes, over to you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priyank, for the presentation. Good presentation overall. Um, my focus area, before going to my actual question, let's say that you are given the responsibility of the entire execution end to end. How much time do you think, what would be probably the timeline that we are talking about in which you would be essentially completing at least the skeletal structure of implementation? Your assessment.
I believe 1 year and 4 months can be a timeline to set up the internal stages, like standardization of the reporting thing, clearing the formats, and compliance with collaboration with different sources, suppliers, and stakeholders. So around 1 year, 4 months can be a decent time to understand that.
So your presentation actually had significant emphasis on the collaboration, particularly supplier collaboration, supplier engagement. At what stage we should involve these guys? At what stage the next year supplier should be involved as far as the implementation framework is concerned?
As soon as there is the internal model has been set up, how the standardization would work, what are the um,
Remember, it's a
uh,
product specific company. We are talking about braking system and etc. etc. It's a product specific company. So, do you think whatever implementation plan you have in terms of the stakeholder, in terms of the supplier collaboration and supplier engagement, would also have something to do with the product part, which is the core product, which is the braking system in this case?
yes, sir. For every product, there should be collaborations with different stakeholders, like suppliers. So in the initial stage only, uh, the company can collaborate with them and
Yes.
understand how
What do you mean by this initial stage?
during standardization, during framing the reporting thing, they can involve them
Okay,
during
okay,
the reporting stage only.
okay, all right. That's it from my side. Sandeep sir, you can go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, so I have two questions, but I want you to answer in like very precisely. Okay, what do you mean by supply chain resilience? In one of the slides, you mentioned solution or outcome.
Resilience means to how can the supply chain be not affected from different mm, from the external world. How can the supply chain be more efficient and not be affected by another external factor?
Okay, okay, and in terms of scope one reduction, right? What do you think would be the key activities that that tidal wave needs to focus on? Scope one, just scope one.
Yeah. So directly impacting the industry, the environment, right? So it can focus on the energy utilization. How can the energy is being consumed in the factory, in the industry? So in the energy part, they can focus on
That's the only
one of
one?
the one of the things, and material choices for the material. How can
Hmm.
they change that or improve on that?
Okay. Materials is like we are making in manufacturing engineering products. So material, replacing a material is not a very easy choice, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
So, just two more activities where you can target for scope one reduction in a manufacturing scenario.
Um, um,
It's okay. Like manufacturing activities, right? Product life cycle.
in
Those are the
manufacturing, yeah, in
yeah.
manufacturing processes, they can improve their efficiency and hence reduce scope and emissions.
Yeah, maybe. And a quick feedback on your presentation, right? Use pointer or something to navigate when when you're presenting, because I was getting confused where exactly you are in presentation while you're presenting. Okay, thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Team Analytical Assist, for the insightful presentation. You may leave the meeting. The results will be announced soon on the Unstop page, and it will be sent to you as well as by email. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Stellar OP, are you ready with your fellow teammates?
Yeah, hello. Actually, two of them are joining. Just a second.
Please tell them to
Yes, I
join as
have
soon as
joined,
possible.
Kalpesh.
Yeah, Ekta has joined.
Yes, I have joined.
Yeah, we have joined. We all are in.
Okay.
Okay.
So, guys, you can start your presentation, and you have to strictly adhere to the timelines of 10 minutes to complete the presentation. And your time starts now. So it's 3:41. We'll start your timer from 3:42. All the best.
I hope the screen is visible. So, good afternoon, everyone. We are team Stellar OP from V School Mumbai, and we are going to present our case study on the topic tidal wave, along with my two team members, that is Ishwari and Kalpesh. So we'll be starting with challenges of the scope assessment. So one of the major challenges is a data acquisition. So data acquisition, building a value chain, followed by legal regulatory framework, supplier customer collaboration. So legal and regulatory framework is one of the most important challenges about data ownership, access to and reuse of data. Scope 3 emissions currently that firms do not have access to all the data they need and face contractual limitations when they reshare received data as part of their emission footprint. The second challenge is supplier customer collaboration. Sharing and using customer emissions data necessitates establishing trust and clear communication to address concerns about data privacy and misuse. Third is a technological limitation. So investing in infrastructure and expertise are necessary for effective data management. And of course, building a value chain. So there are various steps. So using the design choices and making the buyer or making decisions very strategically requires a great strategical mindset. So this is also one of the major challenges, and relying on a reliable and consistent data will be also a challenging issue. So these are one of the major challenges of the scope assessment. So I would now request Ishwari to continue further with the action plan for the assessment.
Hello all. Now talking about the challenges and further the action plan to overcome those challenges. We have created the four phases in it. The first phase is first we need to do the internal scoping of the tidal waves or internal emissions that they face. Especially the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, there should be internal audit, and then we need to collaborate with the sustainability procurement and also to align with their strategies. The main scope 3 assessment that which is very difficult to achieve is we have to develop a clear assessment boundaries to it, and next moving after doing the internal scoping, we can move on to the supplier and customer engagement. So here we have decided that we can create a questionnaire for both the supplier and the customer to understand the upstream and the downstream emissions, and also creating a data collection framework for it. We can also provide incentives to the suppliers who are aligned towards a sustainability partnership, and also provide building a relationship which will be fruitful for the key stakeholders. Next is the phase 3, which is data analysis. Now, after collecting the data from the upstream and the downstream end of customers and suppliers, there will be a lot of data and that needs to be managed. So we can actually create a database management system which will be centralized to store and collect the data to analyze the emissions. And this standardized data will be in a format, which will be standard format for the conversion methods to be used. And then since to ensure that this data is reliable and also accurate, we can implement a validation process to it. The next phase we thought of is the monitoring and reporting phase, wherein now the data that needs to be processed and like implemented in a centralized dashboard, so that we can track either on monthly or on quarterly basis all the emissions from both the supplier, customer, and as well as our own tidal waves emissions. So this we have the four phases that we have implemented as an action plan. The next scope assessment model will be explained by Kalpesh.
Hello all. So we'll be now discussing about the scope assessment model, which is also important while we were creating this case study. So Ikta, can you just please move the PPT? Yeah. So here we can do, here we can see we have segregated into three scopes: scope 1 assessment, scope 2, and scope 3. So the scope 1 says that we have to identify and quantify all the direct emission which are done by the source owners and by the tidal wave. And so here are the few examples we have mentioned that are on-site fuel consumption, industrial processes, company owned vehicles. So these are the transportation vehicles also which is happening inside the in and around the company, which can also give the direct emission greenhouse gases. And these are the blue ones given are the steps which we have taken. The first one is the data collection, that is gathering the data on the above parameters that are the direct emission to the greenhouse gases. Second is emission calculation. So there can be particular calculations which can be done so that we can get how much which machinery, which plant is making the how much effect to the greenhouse gases. The third one is regular monitoring, which is establishing a system for continuous monitoring, so that we will be in a real time data, so that we will get an input which direct materials are affecting our plants and regulations. And the second one is scope assessment, evaluation of indirect emission associated with purchased electricity, heat or steam. So we have mentioned 3 or 4 examples which are electricity consumption, office operations. So these are broad examples. There are more hierarchy to it, and these are the steps how we can identify. It is similar to the scope 1, but we have jotted down more action items. Suppose collect utility bills. So what it will do is, if we are having a detailed information which sector is giving the more emissions, so we can identify the changes, or we can update the things accordingly. The third one is engage with energy provided. So they can give us the consumption data, how much the energy is consumed by the each plant and machineries, so we can work upon that. And the fifth one is communicating the results. So we have to communicate the result to the company owners who are working on this, that this much is being used by this energy and this is the consumption done for this. And the third one is the most important scope, which is actually very impossible, or we can say very difficult to control, because it is including the throughout process of the supply chain, which has upstream and downstream. So you have mentioned few key suppliers for tidal wave. They can be metal supplier, rubber supplier, chemical supplier, and so on. And how we can implement the data collection facility from the supplier side. The first one is supplier workshop and training. So we can ask the supplier side supplier side data from, we can have the supplier side data from the person or the entity who are supplying the raw materials, procuring the raw materials to us. Then we have data collection guideline. We can guide them how we can get the data in a proper format, in a clean format. Third one is emission reporting system. So we can aid suppliers in understanding how we can calculate and get methodologies. So these were the upstream perspective. There are downstream perspective to it. So we have customer surveys, collaborative sustainability initiative, partnership with retailer, life cycle assessment. So in life cycle assessment, there is a different groups of people or the companies, and we can go to a certain goal which will show us that we have to reduce the pollution or the emission of the carbon dioxide. So this is a collaboration based method. And the data, how we can collect the customer side data, is customer surveys, collaborative interviews on focus group, or integrate emission data collection into sales process, collaborate with logistic partner, and so on. So we will be discussing scope reporting map, and it will be further explained by Ekta.
So I'll be discussing the scope reporting map. So data acquisition and regulatory compliance status, wherein we can put some standardized metrics and procedures which are applied throughout the supply chain for scope reporting. Then also we can introduce enhanced data dependability and quality, put in place quality control procedures to guarantee data correctness and accuracy, which will definitely fill up any gaps if there are. And also followed by other scope reporting pointers that we have mentioned, that is supplier and customer engagement, wherein we can have motivated participation among supplier and customer, both the sides, which are equally involved in decarbonization initiatives. Then also, in order to reduce emission and adopt risk mitigation strategies, we can follow and applied efficient strategies for reduction. We can promote cooperative efforts between customers and suppliers to resolve major emission hotspots. We can also purchase eco-friendly technology and adopt those procedures, and investigate and implement cutting-edge strategies to reduce emissions all the way through the entire supply chain. Also, we can adopt stakeholder engagement metrics, and these metrics will definitely be helping in gauging the degree of interaction with clients, vendors, and other parties which are involved in the entire supply chain. So it will be fulfilling our goal, that is to draw attention to the achievements made in promoting shared responsibility and teamwork. So that was all about our case study. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, very good presentation and well within the time. I have two questions for you. Number one is that you have mentioned about data accuracy. So, and also the quality of the data. So, how will you ensure that the data that the suppliers or consumers are entering are right and the quality is or will be maintained? As well as the second question is, will you conduct energy audits or will you make energy audits mandatory for all this? Please share your opinion about this. And also, one more question is that how are you going to motivate your suppliers to, to engage into this whole exercise, because it's a time-consuming process. So, what would be the motivation for the suppliers?
Ma'am, to answer your first question, that is to get the reliable data. So there is a concept of sustainable data management system wherein we have the entire database, wherein there is a unified platform, which is a centralized platform wherein both suppliers and customers can interact, and they can put like it is a common place where which is accessible to both the parties. There is full transparency, and the reliability and validity of data is highly promoted there. So we can introduce such concept there, which is a unified platform where both of the parties have the access to, and it is completely transparent and standardized. So this can also promote two things, which is uniformity and standardization of data entry. So it will definitely promote the transparency factor. And if there are any points that can be added here, Kalpesh and Ishwari, you can add.
Actually, I would like to address the question of the teacher, like the third question which I was asked by her, that how will you motivate the supplier to get into these actions? So what happens is, as a supplier, if I see as a business, I am a supplier, so I am also indulged into those supply business activity. So I am also obliged to do something which is important for the environment, so that I can give it back to the environment. And this is one of the motivation each company is following towards right now. And this can be one of the pointers which I can mention, that we are using the resources from the environment. We have to do the like we have to give the environment as a response to, we as we have a less resource and we are working on those resources, so we have to give it back to the nature what we have taken. And this will promote not only our brand, and it will also give a better response overall as a company.
So to add to the second question, as I've mentioned that we can provide incentives to the suppliers and the consumers. So this can also be a government initiative where they motivate the businesses to start sustainable practices more, and they can provide incentives to the companies. So yeah, but here we can provide incentives to whoever partnership we are working with on both the upstream and the downstream end. So this is one thing where I think the suppliers can be motivated by working on the sustainable part.
Also, I think, Ishwari, we can also, present a data transparency dashboard also, wherein all the details about emission data can be displayed there, which will give the clear insight to, in both the cases, the upstream and downstream,
Yes.
and it will develop more transparency, for the both ends. So we can develop such dashboard to promote that.
Yes, ma'am. And we have also thought of IoT technology to be added. We haven't included in this presentation, but we have thought of IoT that we can actually it can be a real-time collection of data and emissions.
Yeah.
Yes. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. I have a quick question, Sandeep, this side.
Yes.
Did you research about the standard solutions in the market for managing this? The whole sustainability things.
So the research papers that we have read for regarding
No,
this.
standard solution, market solutions, like some software or something. Are there any software platforms that are exclusively designed for this thing? Are you aware of it?
No, sir. Actually, we didn't think of it. We directly
Okay.
jumped onto the solution that we could provide a dashboard which will be having the real-time data and have a centralized dashboard which can work as for the
Okay.
solution.
Cool.
And
Thanks.
also, sir,
No.
we read about that SDMS, that is Sustainable Data Management System, which is being adopted in some companies. We are not really very sure about the names of those companies, but this is a concept that is being taken up or considered by some companies to handle the data from both the sides. So that's what we know as of now.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
No further questions from my end.
Yeah. So just a small question here. What do you mean by partnership with retailers, particularly when you're talking about your assessment in the downstream part?
Yeah, so basically partnership with the retailers means when we are being as a mediator, we have suppliers from the upstream and we have the downstream as a customer. So customer can be another customer, and after their customers there will be a secondary customer as well. Suppose I am supplying my material to a B2B company, so that B2B company, yeah, so we can give them to another customer, and that customer is also selling to some customer. So that is the
Okay.
thing which we have tried to implement.
Also, help me understand what is your rationale for integrating the emission data collections with the sales process? Meaning, what does it
So
have to do with the sales process? Yeah.
basically the when the sales is happening, suppose the B2B is happening, the salesperson, so the salesperson can be having some qualitative data which is coming as a feedback from the customers. So that can also be a data which cannot be tracked or put into the database, but that can be a feedback, real-time feedback, which we can get directly from them sales personnel. So we have thought
Yeah,
of
so
that as
meaning
well.
I'm just trying to understand, meaning how is this helpful?
So just to get the input, like how people are thinking from the perspective of sustainability, environmental change and all. So this will won't help to the dashboard thing, but it will also give the chances to know how our products are doing in the life products cycle.
Okay, so meaning are you anticipating that some kind of emission reduction or some kind of a favorable emission outcome if you're showing in the sales process that might help sales wise also? Are you anticipating something like that?
Yeah, so suppose some company B2B, as I mentioned, so I will be putting out to the customer. The customer will be selling it to some other customer. So the feedback is very important, just to know how our products are going through the supply chain. We have sell to the customer, that customer will be selling to someone else. So we won't be knowing what are the information underlying it.
Yeah, and also if we talk about the downstream part, we can say that the packaging, if it is sustainable, then the feedback from the customer side can be achieved. Like they are accepting that the sustainable thing is, and also yeah. So these kind of qualitative feedback can be used for further improvement.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the
Sir, can
insightful
we stop?
information, Tim. So you can leave the meeting and the results will be announced on Unstop page and it will be sent to you by email as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Bye.
so much, everyone. Have a great day ahead. Bye.
So panelists, if you want 5 minutes break, we can stop the presentations. Sir and ma'am, because we have further 4 presentations remaining. So
I
we are
think
planning to
Let us finish early. I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm
without
okay.
break.
I'm okay too.
Okay, so we are calling the next group for the presentation.
Team Opera is here.
Opera, are your
Yes.
teammates ready with the
Yes,
presentation?
yes, they are ready.
Okay, so it's 401. Your presentation will start at 402. Please strictly adhere to the timelines of 10 minutes. All the best.
My screen is visible, I guess. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Vedali, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So a very good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Opera from IIT Delhi, DMS. Our team is as follows: Shubham Gupta, Vikas Meena, and myself, Vedali Chaudhary. And we are here to present our case analysis and solution on overcoming decarbonization challenges in supply chain. Let's get it started. Shubham, can you please change the slide? Okay, starting with the types of emissions that we have. Scope 1 emissions, these are our direct emissions from sources which we own or control, such as our that involved in manufacturing process. Scope 2 are the indirect emissions from purchased electricity or energy. Scope 3 are emissions throughout our supply chain from raw materials to product disposal. Now, on the basis of the different types of emission, there was one report published by SABTI along with BCG Group, and the findings are as such. They found out that scope 3 emissions basically constitute a substantial portion, over 70% of companies' total greenhouse gas emissions. Also, navigating through the challenges in achieving decarbonization goals, the top 3 hurdles that they found out was influencing upstream suppliers, managing decarbonization cost, and grappling with limited data access for tracking purpose. Shifting our focus, it's interesting to note that 70% of the organizations have recalibrated their emissions in the last 5 years. Lastly, the survey also reveals a significant concern. 60% of respondents they perceive a lack of target setting methods tailored to company circumstances as a barrier. There is a need addressing and reducing these indirect emissions to achieve meaningful and science-backed environmental objectives. Change the slide. Now, yeah. So here we have Tidal Wave as a brake manufacturer. The company faces some challenges in conducting scope assessment due to the nature of its operation and supply chain. Here are few of the challenges that we have listed. The first being differentiating between the different types of scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. With respect to the supplier engagement, it's sometimes difficult to convince suppliers to share their emission data. With again revolving around the data, we have this, there is a chance that there might be data inconsistency throughout the process. There are also, suppliers and customers, they also may be reluctant to give the sensitive data due to privacy concerns. Lack of technological infrastructure also affects the reporting and the reporting process of the emission data. Suppliers may also feel negative financial implications if the data, emissions data, they reveal the inefficiencies with respect to the carbon footprints. Here are some of the challenges that we have listed down. Can we change the slide? Yeah, you can go ahead, Shubham.
After challenges, let's deep dive into what action plans we need. We divided action plans in 4 phases. In phase 1, we need to build awareness. We need to educate Tidal Wave team for scope 3 concepts, what kind of data we required, what kind of from the data, what kind of insights we need to gather, and kind of relevant regulations we need to adhere to. After that, we need to engage all the stakeholders. We need to develop communication strategies, collaboration platforms to engage suppliers, customers, to engage. When we collect the data, we need to collect the data and analyze the data using all the technological platforms and standard. We can use surveys, we can use questionnaires, we can use manual feeding. For example, if you want to track scope 3 data for the employees, like what is their traveling habits and what are their commuting emissions, so surveys can be useful in that case. We need to set targets and roadmaps which will be effective and efficient and achievable. For that, we need to set targets for every stakeholders, for the Tidal Waves team, for the suppliers, for customers, followed by actionable and achievable outcomes. When we don't have 100% control over something, the best strategy to go forward with is collaboration. We need to conduct workshop and webinars to educate all the suppliers, to teach them what the emission assessment process is, what are the best practices, what are the common challenges, and how to accurate submission of the data can be done. We need to collaborate with the industry associations and technology providers for best resource sharing. We need there are certain emission factors which are relevant to every industry. We need to research them and adopt them, so that and we need to communicate these factors to all the suppliers so that they can report consistently back for reporting. By when we formulate this action plan, we need to keep in mind the following outcomes. We need better data collection and supply chain tracking so that we can collect good report and good data and get better insights. We need advanced accounting frameworks. We need to set targets according to the research. We need all the stakeholders joint action across the value chain. Should change the slide.
So the subsequent topic is scope assessment model for tidal wave, and we have divided it into 8 parts. So the first is examining scope 3 emission upstream by collaborating with suppliers to collect data on raw material extraction and production related emission. For example, work with suppliers to quantify emissions from manufacturing components of tidal wave product. Next is examining scope 3 emission downstream by evaluating emissions in the value chain, such as product transportation and customer use. For instance, quantifying emissions from transporting tidal wave product to customer and encourage them to report usage emission by customers. Another aspect is creating standardized data collection protocol across the scopes by establishing guidelines, suppliers, and partners. For example, providing clear instruction for reporting emission data to ensure consistency and comparability. Likewise, implementing technology solution for streamlined data collection by integrating tools into existing system can be taken up. Furthermore, setting the baseline emission level for the scope to gauge future reduction effort. Moreover, the collaboration with supplier and partners for extensive data sharing can be taken up. For example, conducting workshop to emphasize the significance of emission data and promote active participation. Moving on, establishing a continuous monitoring and reporting system will help with a regular cadence for providing a timely update on emission data progress. And additionally, the last point would be continuously enhancing the assessment model based on supply chain insights and changes. For example, here, periodically reviewing the model to incorporate new emission factors or addressing emerging challenges. Coming to the outcome map, the first part is key performance indicator. For the scope 3 emission upstream, targeting a 15% reduction in upstream emission over the next 2 years by collaborating with suppliers to streamline the supply chain and decrease associated emission. Similarly, for the downstream, setting a target to minimize emission in downstream activities by implementing sustainable transportation practices. And this aim could be a 10% reduction in product transportation emission through this initiative. Vikas, you can go ahead.
To take it further, there are initiatives and action for the outcome map. There are supply engagement program, renewable energy adoption, product life cycle analysis, transportation efficiency. We need to conduct workshops, provide resources and sustainable practices to those suppliers so that they can improve further. They can improve on the past methods we already used. Renewable energy adoption, we need renewable energy infrastructure, and we need to collaborate with these energy providers for maximum clean energy sourcing. For the products, we need to conduct a life cycle assessment so that we can see or we can improve on those design and manufacturing changes. For transportation, we need to implement route optimization. We need to explore maximum eco-friendly transportation options, and we can collaborate with these green logistic partners. For communication, regular emission reports would work well. Share report internally and externally to all the stakeholders so that we can further dig upon the areas of improvement. Annual sustainability report can give us what efforts we put and what achievements we get, or how can we improve for the further achievements. For the continuous improvement, we need feedback mechanism. Feedback mechanism will help in the refinement and innovation. Feedback can be taken from all the stakeholders, from downstream to upstream, throughout the value chain. There is the idea of innovation fund. We can keep some amount of money out in this innovation fund, so that we can use in technological improvement and further adaptation, so that we can decarbonize further and move towards sustainable future. Thank you.
These are some of the references we have used, and that will be all from our team.
Okay, good, presentation. I have two questions for you. Number one is, what do you think are the decarbonization challenges from the manufacturing point of view, especially since we have mentioned the brakes or braking company, from the point of only the braking company? And second question is, since you have mentioned the advanced accounting methods, so what in specific do you want to explain about it?
For the first question, do you mean the manufacturing and the supply chain, or only the manufacturing process?
No, only the internal things, that is the manufacturing. Since it's a braking company, what are the decarbonization challenges from that point of view?
The decarbonization challenge is, firstly, ma'am, the braking system. Some of the braking system companies uses hydrogen for their processes, internal processes. So for now, uses of hydrogen currently, as per my knowledge, they are using gray hydrogen or black hydrogen. So gray hydrogen, black hydrogen means they have been producing this hydrogen from coal-based thermal power plant or gas-based thermal power plant. So that is one of the challenges, because if they change it to green hydrogen, it could be like using renewable energy. And for this is one of the challenges, that they are not able to replace the gray hydrogen or blue hydrogen by green hydrogen. The second is the fuel that they use while operating the machines. So those fuels are still the traditional fuels that are used.
Okay, the next question, the advanced accounting methods.
Ma'am, I guess when we talk about the regular accounting method, or when we try to capture something which is tangible and which is in company's control, like scope 1 or scope 2, we have all the data to account for, like how to measure and how much emission is there. But in case of emission 3, in case of scope 3, we need better accounting methods. Like if a consumer is using a product, how can that consumer using the product affects the emission that scope 3 evaluates? So these kind of accounting methods we don't have currently. And for that, we need better accounting methods and advanced accounting method. The term advanced accounting method is referred to that kind of accounting which we need to maybe require to generate those kind of emissions which are not there in our control, in company's control.
Okay, so your turn, please.
Sure, thank you, ma'am. Guys, I have one major, I won't say question, I have one major input, in the sense that typically stage 3, when it's when a product is part of your value chain, and not necessarily it would be within the manufacturer premises and whatnot. And within that, during the product usage, a significant amount of not just the emission but other carbon related outcomes get generated, particularly when the product is with the customers, etc. And since you're saying that a significant part of the environmental outcomes are associated with stage 3, how do you think you would be perhaps able to capture those very significant but not so easily capturable part?
You mean both upstream and downstream, of scope 3?
Particularly when it is being used with the customers, when it has gone to the customer.
Downstream.
You guys understand the question?
Yeah,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
I think one part would be also with respect to taking feedbacks from the customers as to in what process or the product uses that they are currently doing, and if it is impacting the environment in any way, or in what scale it is impacting the environment, or how the product is being used. So I think once we understand in which area it is creating more impact, we can work towards mitigating that particular area. We can work towards mitigating that particular factor of that product in their product life cycle usage.
Sir, to add on that, in my opinion, like till now, when people are not so much aware about these kind of emissions, the scope 3 emission is also there, where a consumer is consuming a product and still that counts in emissions. I think it will take some time to get this point to the customer that okay, you also need to be educated, and you also need to take aware of how you dispose this product at the end of the day, so that the minimum emission can be emitted. So companies can take a lot of initiatives, like maybe they can give a extra sheet of paper with the product, or a guideline, so that they can dispose the product better, or they can emit the minimum emission out of the product. That way we can educate the customer or suppliers to mitigate these kind of problems, I guess.
So during the course of this presentation, I'm sure you would have come up with some terminologies like EPR, extended producer's responsibility, and things.
Yes, sir.
So that is what I was indicating towards. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Sandeep, this side, I do not have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
So Tim, thank you for the presentation. All the best for the results, and it will be announced on the Unstop page as well as it will be sent to your email as well. So thank you. You can leave the meeting.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Team Manifesto, are you ready with your presentations?
Oh, yeah, just a second. Our team leader is joining in a minute.
Okay. So are you ready with your presentations?
I think we can start. She will be joining us very soon.
Okay, no issues. So it's 4:20. You can start your presentation, and please strictly adhere to the timelines of 10 minutes to complete the presentation. The time starts now. All the best.
Good evening to one and all present here. This is Team Manifesto. I'm Arushi, along with my teammates Akshat and Purnima. We would be presenting on the topic overcoming decarbonization challenges in supply chain. Tidal Wave, a growing supplier of braking system, wants to achieve a low-emission supply chain, but lacks the comprehensive data on suppliers and customers' emission to inform their strategy. The challenge lies in contacting a large number of stakeholders and acquiring reliable emissions data. Moreover, Scope 3 reporting is optional and emissions accounting is ever-changing. To achieve their sustainability goals, Tidal Wave needs a solution to integrate emissions data from their entire value chain into their decarbonization strategy. So the team manifesto has divided the action plan for tidal wave into 4 phases. Additionally, with the use of Pareto chain catalyst model, aligning it with the science-based target initiative, tidal wave can target data-driven decarbonization efforts. Now, I would be explaining the challenges a company can face in their scope assessment. Out of the many challenges that a company can face, we have focused upon 5 of them. The first one being measurement. Setting a scope emission target requires data from various sources such as suppliers, distributors, manufacturers, and customers. Collecting and aggregating millions of data points can lead to errors and gaps in data. The second challenge is third-party dependence. As I mentioned, various levels of supply chain are involved in analyzing scope 3 emissions. There's a lot of dependence on third party. Not every company or organization will be willing to share their data and the materials used in the product. Even if the data is shared from their end, it will require huge efforts to convince them to switch to sustainable products. The third challenge is disparate tech system. The company's current tech system might not be in sync with the third party system. And the fourth point, that is the lack of financial aid. It is the most important challenge that any company can face in incorporating scope 3 emission. Though CSR is increasingly becoming a compulsory task, most suppliers will not incorporate climate friendly activities unless they are provided incentives or technical resources for the same. Presently, just 1% of the companies provide financial aid to their suppliers. Moreover, companies do not set quantifiable goals. Simple data collection will not lead to reduction in carbon emissions. The last challenge is lack of universal methodologies. Even if companies record their scope 3 emission, there is a difference in the methods by which the emissions are calculated, which would lead to heterogeneous data for the company. Almost 1/4 of the companies use spend-based method, which is known to be the least accurate one. Now, Purnima would be explaining us the action plan.
Thank you, Arushi. Akshat, can you please switch the slide?
Yeah, just a sec. I think.
So our action plan will unfold in 4 phases. The estimated time required for carrying out the phases would be as follows: 3 months for phase 1, 6 months each for phase 2 and 3, and 18 months for the final phase 4. The first phase focuses on internal assessment. Scope 1 consists of direct emission sources. For a braking company, they might come from combustion of fossil fuels, machinery, furnace, etc. Tidal Wave shall establish data collection system to monitor the energy consumption. Scope 2 emissions consist of indirect emissions, which usually come from electricity, heating, cool, or steam. The company needs to focus on gathering the supplier data by requesting them their electricity consumption to estimate the emissions. The next phase is supplier engagement. Scope 3 emissions come from all indirect emissions other than those of Scope 2. It includes transportation costs, business travel expenses, and other actions by suppliers. With the help of supplier database analysis tools, the company will assess the life cycle of the product. Additionally, issuing online surveys to the suppliers on their operations can be of great help. To improve the data collection system, training and support will be extended to our suppliers. The company will also explore partnerships with existing platforms to facilitate data sharing with the suppliers. One such example of platform will be EcoChain. Verifying the supplier data will offer a great accuracy. The next phase would be to integrate the customers. Firstly, the company will analyze the customer segment with the highest environmental impact. Next, it will focus on engaging customers by developing communication based on customer side. Test pilot project partnerships with customers will also help in integrating the data related to emissions. The final phase would be the most important one and the time-taking one as well. Its job is to analyze and report the data. In this phase, the company will consolidate and harmonize data from all the previous steps. Methodologies will be developed, and the final work would be to set sustainable targets for achieving our goal of decarbonization. As you can see the data, this is according to a CDP report, which tells that a large chunk of 26% of Scope 3 emissions come from suppliers, which is almost 1/4 of the total Scope 3 emissions. Further, it also tells that only 39% of the companies reported supplier-related Scope 3 emissions, which is fairly a very less amount. Since no action plan is flawless, some of the potential barriers that would be witnessed are as follows. Stakeholder engagement and data quality in phase 1. Stakeholders might resist the plan of sustainability due to large cost implications. In phase 2, the resistance from suppliers might be witnessed And in phase 3, customer privacy concerns may apply due to the pilot test projects. And in phase 4, maintaining motivation and commitment to achieve the long-term sustainability goals is a huge task. Handing over to Akshat.
Now, we would like to present a model for the scope assessment. This model is a combination of Pareto's 80-20 rule and science-based target initiative. This is not merely a plan to reduce emissions, but a strategic way to secure tidal waste position as a leader in the net zero future. We are embracing the Pareto principle. A powerful strategy that allows to focus our efforts on the 20% of suppliers responsible for 80% of our carbon footprint. Once we have controlled the 20%, then only we must focus on the other 80% for additional impact. This translates to optimized resources allocation and maximum impact. Science-based target initiative established in 2015, renowned for setting science-aligned targets in accordance with the Paris Agreement. It was signed in 2015 among 196 countries with a long-term temperature goal to keep the rise in mean global temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius and preferably below 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are only 420 gigatons away from pushing Earth's temperature past 1.5 degrees Celsius. This partnership grants us not only credibility, but also competitive edge in the rapidly evolving sustainability landscape. Now, how do tidal wave translate this vision into reality? Allow me to present the 5-step roadmap. Step 1. Tidal waves will identify high impact categories. The top 20% suppliers contributing to 80% of our emissions. This will be our strategic partners of a decarbonization drive. Step 2. The aim of the step would be prioritize engagement. Here, Tidal Wave is making gamified engagement platforms. Suppliers and customers will be incentivized to participate in pilot surveys, earning points that translate into exciting rewards and discounts. The supplier would be benefited from early payment terms. Step 3. Collaborative decarbonization workshops. In partnership with the suppliers, we will conduct SBTI focused workshops. Step 4. Transparency and traceability. We believe in radical transparency. Independent audits will guarantee the integrity of our data, and stakeholders will have full access to progress reports. Step 5. Continuous alignment and adaptation. We will constantly recalculate 80-20 curve based on the updated data. Now I would like Arushi to go with the outcome.
Thank you, Akshat. Please switch to the outcome model slide.
Sorry. Arushi, I think you should continue. There's a technical issue on my side. Sorry for that.
Should I present or I'll continue? I'll explain the outcome map. Our outcome map is basically built on 3 pillars: prioritize, collaborate, and adapt. And we have divided the outcome map into 3 phases: the short term, medium term, and long term. For the short term, that is within 1 to 2 years, we aim to identify the 20% of suppliers contributing the most to our emissions. We will also secure active participation from at least 50% of our suppliers in emission reduction activities and validate our targets, ensuring alignment with the Paris Agreement and international agencies. In the medium term, that is within 3 to 5 years, the company will be able to achieve a 30% reduction across the entire supply chain. Tidal Wave can also partner with high impact suppliers to co-create innovative decarbonization initiatives. In the long-term phase, that is within 5+ years, our goal is to achieve a net zero emission in the entire supply chain. Tidal Wave should continuously refine their focus, engage key suppliers, and track progress. We will also share knowledge, explore solutions, and scale successes. Finally, we will stay informed, adjust targets, and embrace iteration to ensure that we are always on track to achieve our goals. This is from our side. Thank you.
Good presentation. What I liked is you rightly pointed the challenges part, and also you have a practical touch to the presentation. So no questions from my side.
Yeah. So one small question, rather. So typically, and most likely it might be true that you made an assumption that invariably, we often rely upon the Pareto principle, wherein we typically say that 20% of the source actually create 80% of the impact. Do you think your approach would have been refined further if you would have done some small pilot study or some sort of a sample study and kind of trying to substantiate that 20-80-80-20 kind of principle? Would that have helped?
So actually, we have studied, we have looked for example that we have looked for companies that have followed this Pareto 80-20 rule, and they have gotten success in it. So one example is a American-based apparel brand called Patagonia. So so in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, they were saying that they did not have any clear, you know, clear manner in which they could help with the supply chain. So what they did is they focused on their 20% of our when they focused on their 20% of the suppliers. So they found out that these 20% suppliers that were creating 80% emissions. So then they got their goal, and then they worked with those 20 suppliers, and then led to a massive reduction in the emissions. So we have gone through their we have studied that company. So I think from there only we have found that it is actually, it can be applicable to us also if we focus like that.
Okay. And what was the domain of that company? You said apparel.
Yeah, it was outside apparel brand that manufactures jackets and all stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So meaning invariably what we'll see the 80-20 rule holding good in many circumstances, but it is also contingent upon the kind of distribution, the kind of
Yeah, that
circumstances.
is
Yeah, so I think that is something which you may examine because your subsequent plan is based on that major premise. Therefore, I'm pointing that out. All right. So that's it. Not have any question.
Thank you, sir. Sandeep, this side. So, I'll say good presentation. I really liked one point that stand out is incentive, supplier incentive. When you said that, for people, for the suppliers who are doing well in sustainability, they can change their payment terms. So that is a very practical solution for engaging the suppliers. So good. Just one comment on the timeline. Sustainability is something you cannot just execute as a project. It's a complete kind of a cultural shift or a cultural change, right? So even if you want to do a scope 1 assessment, right, it would be difficult to achieve in 3 weeks. Sushmita ma'am, Mohit sir, do correct me if I'm wrong.
It was 3 months, I guess.
Yeah, 3 months. It's difficult. 3 months.
Yeah.
It's a cultural shift thing. Sustainability. It's not a straight away project that you are optimizing something or
The kind of
implementing
resistance,
some.
the kind of resistance that you expect, you cannot imagine.
Yeah, just to optimize a one production line, it takes more than 3 months. Thank you. Very well presented.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim, for your insightful presentation. You can leave the meeting and the results will be announced on the Unstop page and it will be also sent to you by email. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are coming to the end. The last second presentation is on the board. The Tim, have you joined the link? The Tim Igniters. Are your all fellow mates ready with the presentations?
Yeah.
This is the last presentation, guys?
No, sir. We have one more presentation after this.
Achha, okay.
Team Igniters, are you ready with the presentations?
Yes.
Okay. So all the best for your presentation and your time starts now. You have to strictly adhere to the timelines of 10 minutes. So it's 4:35. We'll start your timings from 4:36. All the best.
Am I audible? And the screen visual?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so good evening, jury. Myself, Gaurav Kumar from NIT Raipur, and along with me, my teammate Aditi Rajan from ISL Bhopal, and we are team igniters. So let's start with company overview. So Tidal Wave is a mid-sized braking system supplier for Bajaj for major automakers. It is mainly focused on global expansion and sustainability. To achieve net zero emissions, Tidal Wave must address challenges related to scope assessment, data reliability, and large-scale integration. Let's dive into market research. Ever felt like you are not putting your money where it matters? So, according to a report by McKinsey, companies are misinvesting 5 to 10% due to a scope confusion. Let's talk about transparency. CDP reveals 87% of firms are not disclosing crucial scope 3 emissions. And in 2023, only 29% have reliable scope 1 and 2 data. And regulatory impact. The European Union emissions trading system alone dropped a hefty 7.2 billion euros in fines in 2022 for those not playing by sustainability rules. Key takeaways from this research are precision is key in emissions reporting, communication gaps act as stumbling blocks along the way, and let's not forget those fines. They are must not just numbers on papers, but they are tangible reality. Now let's look at challenges that this company is facing. First one, misunderstanding of scopes 1, 2, and 3. Proper management needs clarity on emission scopes for efficient progress tracking. They do not have accurate supplier and consumer data. They also have some departmental barriers that hinder data flow, limiting optimization and creating aggregation challenges. They have insecure buy-in and lack of engagement that erodes trust and damages reputation. Next, we have action plan. First one, knowledge boost, a 3-month strategy working in 3 tiers. Train managers, hire sustainability expert, and build knowledge base. First on the agenda, deep dive training on the scopes 1, 2, and 3 emissions for a comprehensive understanding and a potential of 5 to 10% cost reduction. Next, we are hiring a dedicated sustainability officer, saving another 5 to 10%. Lastly, we are creating a knowledge base for EcoSmarts, anticipating a 15 to 20% engagement boost and 5% reduction in turnover. Now let's talk about Data Symphony, a 6-month strategy. Phase 1, a standardize, collaborating with key suppliers for unified reporting on the top 80% of emissions. Then a transition to a secure cloud-based platform for a streamlined data management. We can anticipate a significant 50 to 70% boost in data availability, enhancing our progress tracking. Then we have phase 3 that includes recognizing and rewarding green champions for achieving transparency and emission reduction goals. Then we have an 12-month strategy integrating tech. We can revolutionize data management with a cloud-based system, leveraging integrated cleansing tools. We can automate 80% of routine data analysis tasks. We can develop APIs for seamless data exchange, boosting transfer speed by 10x, according to MuseSoft's 2023 benchmark. We can unlock valuable time 15 to 20% more for employees by automating reporting and analysis within the system. Next, we have communication bridge. There are 3 stages in this strategy. First one, to craft a vibrant communication strategy, like email updates, town halls, and workshops. And we can increase employee buy-in by 20 to 30%, according to Edelman. Next, we have a stage 2, which quarterly reports with vivid visualization, which can foster transparency, boosting potential brand loyalty by 5 to 10%. Then we have a stage 3, in which we can address the economic world forum by collaborating by regular engagements and could cut supply chain disruptions by 10 to 15%. Then we have continuous improvement program, which includes creating KPIs. We will mainly focus on SMART. SMART means specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So we have to regularly review and report progress internally and externally so that we can ensure transparency and accountability. We can drive targeted action plans with concrete steps, responsible individuals, and clear timeframes for improvement. We can also ensure our sustainability in purposeful and results driven. Then we have a scopes assessment model. We have divided it into two phases. First, a scoping landscape, and second, leveraging strategies and action. Let's talk about phase one. It consists of three stages: mapping footprint, data gathering and verification, and data analysis and visualization. Let's break it down. Scope one, direct emissions. We will look at the own and control production facilities, vehicles, equipments. We can quantify fuel, electricity, and refrigerant emissions. For scope 2, we have to monitor about electricity and stream across all sites, get nuanced with location-based and market-based accounting. In a scope 3, we have to map out entire supply chain, both upstream and downstream. We have to categorize key suppliers by material, logistics based. We also have to estimate their emissions using data and benchmarks. Then we have to integrate existing system data, collaborating with suppliers via questionnaires for energy emissions and waste data. We have to fill gaps and refine estimates using industry database, LCAs, and environment tools. We have to streamline data with a cloud platform to aggregate, analyze, and visualize emissions data. We have to identify major contributors in operations and supply chain. We have to generate clear reports and visually engaging dashboards for concise insights. Now for phase two, which includes setting ambitious goals, developing a reduction roadmap, and continuous monitoring and environment. Stage one, benchmark against global targets. We have to align with industry standards and climate goals like the science-based target initiatives. For stage two, we have to set ambitious yet achievable emissions reduction targets for a scope 1, 2, and 3 over the next 5 to 10 years. For stage 3, we have to adopt science-based approaches, like we have to apply life cycle thinking, considering upstream and downstream impacts to ensure targets align with circular economy model. We have to develop a reduction roadmap, which includes prioritizing action areas, investing in targeted solutions, and engaging supply chain. Continuous monitoring and measurement. We have to track progress against targets, invest in innovation transparency, and accountability.
Okay, so I would like to present here. On the outcome, we can see that the desired outcomes can be achieved by quantity emission reduction across the scopes 1, 2, and 3, tracking the improvements in water and energy consumption per unit of the production, monitor the percentage of recycled or sustainably sourced materials in production, and collaboratively set and track the emission reduction targets with the key suppliers. The progress can be assessed through data-driven decision making, employee engagement, supply engagement, and public transparency. The assumptions and the boundary partners can be governed through the government policies and regulations, consumer preferences, and industry collaborations. And the activities that needs to be performed are investment in more and more renewable energy and energy efficiency upgrades, implementation of circular economy principles and resource management initiatives, adoption of sustainable sourcing practices and supplier collaboration, employee education and training, and community engagement initiatives should be performed. Along with this, the industry collaboration, that is identifying the strategic partner and collaborating with them, it will help. Along with that, the partner with the research institutions and NGOs to develop innovative solutions are the best practices, and acknowledge sharing and collective actions, that is participating in industry forums and initiatives to share the knowledge and best practices in sustainable operations, and advocate for the collective action within the industry to promote the broader systematic changes towards the sustainability can be done.
So with this, we end our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good presentation, good infographics, and two questions, very quick. You have shown some data of cost savings. From where did you get the data? How did you come at those 5 to 10% or whatever you showed? And second thing is, I want to know that what would be the timeline for the scoping phase of your project?
Yes, ma'am. So for data savings, we have used some reports that were involved in several research projects like McKinsey, and we have also used some world economic platforms for getting that same cost saving templates that the other companies are implementing. And what we thought that we can implement the similar strategy and we can get the similar outcomes from there. And for the data scopes, it's a 1 year. So it's a 1 year strategy. We have divided the timeline into three phases. First, we have to focus on how we can map the footprint, and second, we have to gather some data and we have to verify it. It's basically a 3 month strategy for each, total 9 month strategy. And in the last, we have to analyze data, and what we thought that we can visually engage those data. We can visually present those data in a presentable way so that it can be easily understood by employees and they can take serious actions according to that.
Okay, do you think the suppliers will be so eager or so quick to produce all the data in such a short span of time?
No,
I mean,
ma'am.
since you're talking about scope 3.
No, ma'am, definitely not. But it requires high technology. We also focus on cloud management technology. And it also requires some economic, some extra money for that. The main focus should be on levying some extra technologies so that they can advance this strategy easy and in much efficient way.
Okay, yes, over to you, sir.
Yeah. So, guys, one question I have when you're talking about investment in innovation, who are going to fund these endeavors? Particularly, I can appreciate the fact that, as opposed to many of the deterministic outcome-based actions, innovation is something wherein the outcomes invariably are uncertain more often than not. So, significant bit of funding actually goes into such activities. Who is going to fund these?
I think they should collaborate with government. Government can give them fund, but what matters is that they must have a proper innovating strategy so that government can fund, and they also need to be contacted by VCs and startups fundings. They can also get funds from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sandeep, this side. I saw you did not cover challenges. I guess I hope I did not miss that if there was anything related to challenges you'll face. So, any challenges you want to share?
Yes, sir. Just a minute.
Okay.
It's okay. You can elaborate about it. You don't have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
present.
yeah.
You can.
Just make it brief.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the challenges that the company is facing. First one, misunderstanding of scopes 1, 2, and 3 is
No. Not company facing. What are the challenges in implementing this strategy that you're suggesting? What could be the
yes.
challenges? Yeah.
First one, economic factor. They need a large amount of funding. Second, they need a proper technology partnership. They need someone so that they can contribute with it. They can should have a proper technology partner so that they can levy their strategies in a much efficient management. And the third thing that I focused was on cloud management storage. So they should tie up with bigger companies like the companies that are currently focusing on cloud management like Amazon, Google, And they can also tie up with smaller startups so that they can majorly contribute to cloud management, and they can easily manage a long list of data and of employees and sustainability challenge.
Got it. Thank you. No further questions.
So you can leave the meeting.
Yeah.
The results will be announced on Unstop as well as on email page. So you can leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as we are concluding with the last presentation, the team, what's in your name? Are you ready with the presentation? Your fellow mates have joined the meeting. Team, are you ready with the presentations?
Yeah, we are ready.
Okay. So it's
Can we?
4:52.
Yeah.
It's 4:53. You will be having 10 minutes to present your presentation. Please strictly adhere to the timelines. Your time starts
Yeah.
now. All the best.
Good evening, everyone. We are Team What's in the Name, and we are here to show you how tidal wave can reduce its emissions and maintain an efficient supply chain. Tidal Wave is a leading provider of braking systems for OEMs, shaping the future of safety and performance on the road. The sustainable automobile segment is expected to grow at a CAGR of 25.7% between 2023 and 2030, reaching $8.4 trillion by 2030. Coming to the internal analysis for the company through SWOT framework, Tidal Wave enjoys a strong market position with established relationships and brand recognition. However, focusing solely on traditional braking systems could hinder adaptability in a market increasingly demanding sustainability innovation. Tidal Wave is positioned to take advantage of growing demand for sustainability and can collaborate with research institutions and environmental organizations to accelerate innovation and strengthen its environmental impact. It would just have to be on a lookout for rivalry from newcomers and navigate through strict regulatory requirements. Current trends in the industry include focus on electrification, development of low emission fluids, and adoption of digital technologies.
Next, we look at some of the challenges that tidal wave might face. We have categorized them into internal, external, and communication challenges. So, when it comes to the internal challenges, tidal wave these challenges might include data collection from diverse sources, technology and infrastructure limitations, compatibility issues, cost and resource allocation, and lack of scope assessment expertise. Looking at the external challenges, they might include operational scope 3 reporting, supply chain complexity, evolving regulatory landscape, data reliability, and no standard methodology. There might also be some communication challenges, which might include scalability issues, lack of motivation to participate, confidentiality concern, and then potential resistance from the stakeholder.
For Tidal Wave, we have come up with an assessment plan. The first 3 months will be spent in building expertise, data infrastructure, and quality assurance for accurate emissions mapping. The next 6 months will be dedicated to identifying the key partners, building communication channels, and simplifying data collection to encourage suppliers and customer participation in emissions mapping. Finally, phase 3 will focus on consolidating emissions data, analyzing the same, and identifying key areas for improvement to set targets for reduction strategies. A couple of points to take care of here are raising a sufficient fund for implementation plan, providing incentives to suppliers and customers to ensure participation, and creating open channels for communication to build trust and address concerns. All of this will be successful via continuous review and feedback mechanism, keeping a check on new regulations and evaluating the need for additional resources or tools to keep up with the increasing data generation.
Our assessment model comprises of the following components. The first is data collection, wherein we will collect data, internal data pertaining to the energy, fuel, and ERP system. Supplier and customer data will be collected via the surveys and partnerships with key stakeholders. We will analyze the collected data using relevant GHG accounting methodologies, emission allocation, and scenario modeling. The model will be made in such a way that it will be scalable, it will ensure data privacy, and there will be transparency in reporting. Coming to the technologies and tools, we will need data management systems, scenario modeling softwares, and collaboration platform to have an efficient model.
The overall objective of this model is to reduce tidal waves GHG emission across the entire supply chain. The table here shows the targets and metrics where for each reporting year, we will have a certain percentage of reduction for all the three scopes. Now, I'll just explain the scopes a little briefly. Scope 1 will focus on the total direct emissions from company-owned operations. Scope 2 will focus on indirect emissions from purchased electricity, heat, or steam. And Scope 3 will focus on upscale or downstream activities, and which includes indirect emission from the value chain, including suppliers and customers. Finally, the successful implementation of this entire model will help Tidal Wave in improved transparency and accountability, enhancing supplier and customer engagement, reduced emissions and resource efficiency, and creating competitive advantage and brand reputation. With this, we conclude our presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, good presentation. I just wanted to ask you a question that all these things are maybe investment in software or some some kind of infrastructure or maybe IoT AI based system, whatever it is, or maybe integration with the legacy systems. So I just wanted to know how will you ensure that you have ROI in your business operations?
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so while ensuring ROI, first is we'll have to start it in a phase-wise manner. Obviously, there will be a cash burn initially, but then we'll have to assess, you know, at a small scale if it is profitable, if there are different pathways, whichever pathway is, we find scope or we find any potential in it, then slowly we'll scale it up, and then from negative, it will break even at an eventual point. So that is how. And again, I think through when we try to increase the scale of these operations, then the per unit or per operation wise cost might reduce. So that is how we can achieve a positive return.
Okay. Yes, over to you, sir.
Yeah. So, guys, if you refer to the case, uh, mm, it suggests that the management is not completely aware of the scope of assessment and reporting. However, they have already kind of declared the sustainability targets, if I recollect the case. Does this challenge predominantly comes under the communication challenge, or there are external and internal challenges to this bit as well?
So first is we need to conduct internal trainings as well, where we, if I may go to that, just in this slide, as we have said, first we need to have internal capacity building. In that, we need to educate the staff members as well as the management needs to upskill themselves in terms of, how they can uh, set the targets and metrics, because currently the management does not have that expertise. So education and skill development will be the first phase.
Okay. No, thank
And
you.
yes, just to add to his point, so first, the one point is to first under the company to understand what the issues, I mean, what the scopes are, and then we come to the communication with suppliers and customers. So once we develop internal, we have a clear internal communication, we will then be able to explain that to the external stakeholders as well. So it's up to simply answer your question. We see that it's an issue at both ends.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's it from my side. I think Sandeep sir, if you have any question.
No, I'm okay. Thanks for
Okay.
your presentation.
Thank you so much for your questions.
Thank you so much.
So Tim Watson and M, it was a great and insightful presentation. We would thank you all of you for presenting your presentation. So please stay in the meeting, because in a moment or two, all the participants will be joining the meeting and we will take a snap with all the faculties, all the board members and the presenters. So I hope each and every participants of all the teams have joined the meeting. So it was a very insightful session for each and everyone, all of us. And I hope everyone have learned something from the presenters and the judges as well. So I was very grateful and our team is very thankful for all the presenters to present the presentations in the meeting. So coming to the presentation portion. So dear esteemed judges, on behalf of the team OPEP Raipur, we extend our sincere gratitude to our judges for their valuable time and expertise to make OPS-COGITATE a resounding success. Your valuable insights and thoughtful evaluation have greatly enriched the event, leaving a lasting impact on all participants. We are truly grateful for your dedication to fostering knowledge and excellence. Thank you for being an integral part of this enlightening experience. Once again, thank you, judges, for your valuable time, especially on Sundays. I would also be thankful and grateful for ISCA and the board members, Sushmita ma'am and Sandeep sir, for presenting on the Sundays and giving your insightful information to the students. I would also be thanking Mohit sir for coming into the meeting and joining us for the students' presentations. So I hope everyone would have enjoyed the presentations and each and everything. So I would request each participants to please on their camera so that we could take a snap and we could leave a good impact on each and everyone. And we could finally leave the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, participants, for their presentation. You can leave the meeting. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, esteemed panelist.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandeep sir and Sushmita ma'am, for being here.
Thank you, Mohit sir. Thank you, Sandeep sir. Nice
Bye.
meeting you.
All right.
It was
Nice.
great meeting you, sir and ma'am. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.